Imagine a huge palace in Egypt. It is quiet, very quiet. 10 brothers are standing in front of the ruler of Egypt. They are scared. They do not know what will happen next. The ruler tells everyone else to leave the room. Now it is only the brothers and the ruler. No one says a word. Then something amazing happens. The ruler stops speaking the Egyptian language. He starts speaking their own language, Hebrew. Then he says 4 words they never thought they would hear.
I am Joseph.
The brothers freeze. They cannot believe it. Joseph is alive. The brother they thought they would never see again is standing right in front of them. Then Joseph asks,
Is my father still alive?
The brothers are so surprised that they cannot even answer. How did this happen? Let's go back and find out. The first time Joseph's brothers went to Egypt, they only wanted one thing: food. There was a terrible famine. That means there was almost no food anywhere. But their trip did not go the way they expected. The ruler of Egypt said they were spies. He put them in prison for 3 days. Then he let most of them go home. But not Simeon. Simeon had to stay in Egypt. The ruler said, Bring your youngest brother back to Egypt. If you do, I will let Simeon go. If you don't, you cannot come back for more food. The brothers returned home with bags of grain. But they also carried a difficult message. They had to bring Benjamin to Egypt. When Jacob heard this, he shook his head and said, No, Benjamin is not going. Benjamin was Joseph's younger brother. And after Joseph disappeared, Benjamin was Jacob's only son from Rachel left at home. Jacob loved Benjamin very much. He was afraid something bad might happen to him too if he lets him go. So no matter what the brothers said, Jacob would not change his mind. Time passed. Soon all the grain was gone. There was almost nothing left to eat. The family needed more food. Someone had to go back to Egypt. So Reuben stepped forward. He looked at his father and said,
Father, let Benjamin come with me. I will take care of him. I promise I will bring him home safely. If I fail, you may punish my own sons. I will be responsible for Benjamin.
Reuben loved his father. He wanted him to trust him, and he was willing to risk everything to protect Benjamin. But Jacob was still afraid. He answered,
My son will not go with you. Joseph is gone. Benjamin is all I have left from Rachel. If anything happens to him, my heart will break.
Those words were very painful for Reuben. Jacob believed Joseph was dead, but Reuben believed, deep in his heart, that Joseph was still alive. For 22 long years, Reuben had carried that hope in his heart. He never forgot his little brother. He wanted to tell the truth, but it was too late, so he stayed quiet. He walked outside and stood by himself. He wondered if his father would ever trust him again. Just then, Judah walked into Jacob's tent. After talking with Jacob, something changed. This time, Jacob said yes. Benjamin could now go to Egypt. The next morning, the brothers packed their bags, said goodbye to their father, and began the long journey to Egypt. None of them knew their lives were about to change forever. The journey to Egypt was long. The brothers walked for many days. During the day, the sun was hot. At night, they stopped to rest. They made small fires, cooked food, and talked quietly before going to sleep. Benjamin had never made a trip like this before. He was the youngest brother and the protected one. He had stayed home with his father while his older brothers traveled. There was something else Benjamin did not know. He had been very little when Joseph disappeared. He did not know the whole story. One evening, after everyone had finished eating, Benjamin saw Reuben sitting by himself. Reuben liked quiet places. Benjamin walked over and sat beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Benjamin asked,
Reuben, can I ask you something?
Of course.
What was Joseph like? I was too little to remember him. Father talks about him sometimes. I wish I had known him.
Reuben looked at the stars above them. He smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. Then he answered,
Joseph was kind. He cared about people. He loved our father very much. He was honest, and he was not afraid to tell the truth.
Sometimes he talked before he thought. But he always meant well.
Yeah.
He had a big heart.
Benjamin listened carefully. He could hear how much Reuben loved Joseph.
I miss him every single day. I wish I could see him someday.
He did not ask any more questions. Instead, he looked up at the stars too. The two brothers sat together in the quiet night. Above them, the same stars shone brightly, far away. Joseph was looking at those same stars. Neither of them knew it yet, but they were getting closer to each other with every step toward Egypt. And very soon, God was going to bring their family back together in a way none of them could have imagined. After many days of traveling, the brothers arrived in Egypt. They stood once again before the ruler of the land. They did not know. He was really Joseph. Joseph looked at each of his brothers. Then, his eyes stopped on Benjamin. For a moment, Joseph forgot everything else. Benjamin, his little brother, the child he had left behind 22 years ago. Benjamin was not a little boy anymore. He had grown into a young man. Joseph wanted to run over and hug him. He wanted to tell him, "I'm your brother," but he couldn't, at least not yet. Instead, Joseph asked,
Is this your youngest brother? The one you told me about? Yes, my lord. May God be kind to you, my son.
As soon as Joseph finished speaking, he turned around and hurried out of the room. He needed to be alone. His heart was too full, so Joseph began to cry. He had missed his family for so many years. After a little while, he washed his face, took a deep breath, and went back into the room. The brothers did not understand why the ruler had left so suddenly, but they said nothing. Soon it was time to eat. Then something strange happened. The ruler told his servants where each brother should sit. Reuben sat first, then Simeon, then Levi, then Judah. One by one, every brother sat in the exact order of his age. The oldest sat first. The youngest sat last. The brothers looked at each other with wide eyes. In a whisper to one another, they said, "How does he know? Nobody in Egypt should know our family." They were amazed. Reuben looked carefully at the ruler. Something about him felt familiar. He could not explain it. The ruler seemed to know things no stranger should know. Still, Reuben had no idea that the man sitting before him was Joseph, his little brother, the one he had hoped was still alive. Joseph looked at his brothers with love. Very soon, he would tell them the truth. But first, God had one more lesson to teach them. The next morning, the brothers packed their bags. Their donkeys were loaded with grain. Simeon was free. Benjamin was safe. Everything seemed to be going well. The brothers smiled as they began the journey home. They could not wait to see their father again. But Joseph had one more plan. He said to one of his servants, "Put my silver cup inside Benjamin's sack." The servant did exactly as Joseph said. The brothers did not see him do it. They had no idea what was about to happen. They had not gone very far when they heard horses coming. Joseph's servant rode after them. He shouted, "Stop!" The brothers stopped and turned around. The servant looked at them and said, "Why have you stolen my master's silver cup?" The brothers were shocked. Judah said, "We would never do such a thing. If you find the cup with one of us, let that person stay behind." The servant nodded and said, "Then let us look." One by one, he opened every sack. First Reuben's, nothing. Then Simeon's, nothing. Then Levi's, nothing. One after another, every sack was empty. Finally, he opened Benjamin's sack. The silver cup was inside. The brothers stared in disbelief. Benjamin looked just as surprised as everyone else. No one understood how the cup got there. The brothers were heartbroken. They tore their clothes because they were so sad. Then they all turned around and went back to Egypt together. Not one brother left Benjamin behind. Years earlier, they had left Joseph alone. This time, they stayed together. When they stood before Joseph again, he said,
The one who had the cup will stay here as my servant. The rest of you may go home.
The room became very quiet. No one moved. No one walked away. Then Judah stepped forward. He bowed before Joseph.
My lord, our father is old. He has already lost one son. If Benjamin does not return home, our father's heart will break. So please, let me stay here instead. I will be your servant, but let Benjamin go home to our father.
Joseph looked at Judah. Years ago, Judah had helped sell Joseph into slavery. But now, Judah was willing to become a slave himself, to save his younger brother. Joseph saw something wonderful. His brothers had changed. They were no longer selfish. They loved one another. They were ready to protect Benjamin, no matter what it cost them. So Joseph could not hide his feelings any longer. His eyes filled with tears. His heart was overflowing with love. The time had finally come to tell them who he really was. He looked at everyone in the room and said,
Everyone, please leave.
The servants left. The guards left. Soon, only Joseph and his brothers were in the room. The brothers looked at one another. They wondered what would happen next. Then Joseph began to cry. He cried so loudly that people outside the room could hear him. At last Joseph spoke, not in the Egyptian language, but in Hebrew, the language of his family. He looked at his brothers and said,
I am Joseph.
The room became completely silent. The brothers could not believe their ears. Joseph, their brother, standing in front of them, alive? Joseph asked another question.
Is my father still alive?
The brothers were too shocked to answer. They were afraid, because they remembered what they had done to Joseph many years before. Would he punish them? Would he send them to prison? Would he make them slaves? Instead, Joseph stepped closer. His voice became gentle.
Please come near me. I am your brother Joseph,
Slowly,
the one you
the
sold
brothers
into
walked
Egypt.
toward him. Joseph smiled through his tears. The brothers lowered their heads. They felt ashamed. But Joseph did not speak with anger. He spoke with love. As Joseph spoke, Reuben could not move. For 22 years, he had carried 3 words in his heart. Joseph is alive. He had whispered them in the dark when no one was listening. He had held onto them when everything around him said he was foolish for hoping. He had carried them through every ordinary morning and every difficult night and every year that passed without an answer. And now, standing in this room, those 3 words were no longer just hope. They were true. Joseph was really alive. He was standing right there. Reuben looked at his brother's face. Older now, stronger now, shaped by years Reuben had not been part of, and something that had been tight in his chest for 22 years slowly, quietly, came undone. He did not shout. He did not fall to the ground. He just stood there, with tears running down his face, and breathed, the way a man breathes when he has been holding something for a very long time, and has finally been allowed to put it down. Everything finally made sense. God had been taking care of Joseph all along. Even during the hardest times, Joseph opened his arms. One by one, he hugged his brothers. Then he hugged Benjamin for a long time. Both of them cried tears of joy. The family that had been broken for many years was together again. God had turned sadness into joy. He had brought healing where there had once been pain. And the brothers learned something they would never forget. God can take even the hardest parts of our lives and use them for something wonderful. Let me talk to you for a moment. Have you ever had a hope that you stopped telling people about? Not because you stopped believing it, but because you got tired of the look on their faces when you said it. The polite smile, the careful change of subject, the way even the people who love you sometimes look at you like, maybe it is time to let that go. So you stopped saying it out loud, but you kept carrying it, quietly, alone, in the dark. Maybe it was a prayer for your family. Maybe it was believing that something broken could still be fixed. Maybe it was holding on to a promise that had not come true yet and wondering, every ordinary day, whether it ever would. If that is you, I need you to hear this. Reuben carried 3 words for 22 years. Joseph is alive. Nobody believed him. Nobody even knew he was carrying it. But he held on anyway, through every hard morning, through every ordinary day that felt like nothing was happening, through every year that passed without an answer. And he was right. God never forgot Joseph. God never forgot Reuben. And God has not forgotten you. Even when you cannot see what he is doing, he is working. He is getting everything ready for the right moment. So keep holding on. Keep doing what is right. Keep showing up to your ordinary days. Because the God who brought Joseph and Reuben back together after 22 years, that same God is writing your story too. And nothing is impossible for him. See you next time in Crowns in the Dust, where we'll discover the special place God gave to Reuben's tribe and why it shows us that God never forgets those who stay faithful.